No, I already know what this is. And what you tried to do was you tried to make him black so that you could put in some sort of antebellum kind of vindication, which is not appropriate. But, you got to get it done and over with. And so, the Brandeis wasn't going to cut it, right? Brandeis wasn't going to cut it. What you needed was something real and authentic. So I'll give it to you the best I can, right? And I'm wearing the glasses. So you get that as part of whatever you thought you were entitled to get. I already know I am not qualified to provide any sort of reflection on the case studies. So I'll just read the introduction. Colonial war and mental disorders. But the war goes on, and we will have to bind up for years to come the many, sometimes ineffaceable, wounds that the colonialist onslaught has inflicted on our people. That imperialism, which today is fighting against the true liberation of mankind, leaves in its wake here and there tinctures of decay, which we must search out and mercilessly expel from our land and our spirits. We shall deal here with the problem of mental disorders which arise from the war of national liberation which the Algerian people are carrying on. Perhaps these notes on psychiatry will be found ill timed and singularly out of place in such a book, but we can do nothing about that. We cannot be held responsible that in this war, psychiatric phenomena entailing disorders affecting behavior and thought have taken on importance where those who carry out the pacification are concerned, or that these same disorders are notable among the pacified population. The truth is that colonialism in its essence was already taking on the aspect of a fertile purveyor for psychiatric hospitals. We have since 1954 in various scientific works drawn the attention of both French and international psychiatrists to the difficulties that arise when seeking to cure a native properly. That is to say, when seeking to make him thoroughly a part of a social background of the colonial type. Because it is a systematic negation of the other person and a furious determination to deny the other person all attributes of humanity, colonialism forces the people it dominates to ask themselves the question constantly: in reality, who am I? The defensive attitudes created by this violent bringing together of the colonized man and the colonial system form themselves into a structure which then reveals the colonized personality. This sensitivity is easily understood if we simply study and are alive to the number and depth of the injuries inflicted upon a native during a single day spent amidst the colonial regime. It must in any case be remembered that a colonized people is not only simply a dominated people. Under the German occupation, the French remained men. Under the French occupation, the Germans remained men. In Algeria, there is not simply the denomination, but the decision to the letter not to occupy anything more than the sum total of the land. The Algerians, the veiled women, the palm trees and the camels make up the landscape, the natural background to the human presence of the French. Hostile nature, obstinate and fundamentally rebellious, is in fact represented in the colonies by the bush, by mosquitoes, natives, and fever. And colonization is a success when all this indocile nature has finally been tamed. Railways across the bush, the draining of swamps, and a native population which is non existent politically and economically are in fact one and the same thing. In the period of colonization, when it is not contested by armed resistance, when the sum total of harmful nervous stimuli overstep a certain threshold, the defensive attitudes of the natives give way, and they can then find themselves crowding the mental hospitals. There is thus, during this calm period of successful colonization, a regular and important mental pathology, which is the direct product of oppression. Today, the war of national liberation, which has been carried on by the Algerian people for the last 7 years, has become a favorable breeding ground for mental disorders because, so far as the Algerians are concerned, it is a total war. We shall mention here some Algerian cases which have been attended by us and who seem to us to be particularly eloquent. Now I guess I am supposed to disengage because you are supposed to be observing me and making your casework off of my life. So I don't even, I believe, have the right to cite the source that I just read because I'm too fucking primitive to know how to read this, right? And maybe when you're done objectifying me and harvesting whatever the fuck you thought you were going to translate into value, maybe you'll give me something I can read that you'll approve of.